Hello, and welcome to Shortcut Up CSC. Today we're going to go over the French curves maker gadget. Most of my gadgets I've created use the same interface to some degree, and it is always best after you install it and you bring it up for the first time. You don't really need to do a gadget reset on the first install, but anytime after you use the gadget, you may not remember the settings and everything within the gadget that you used previously. Plus, also, the gadget can be used either in drawing units of inches or millimeters, the metric system. So you may not remember which system you used the gadget last in. So it's always best to go to the About page and use the gadget reset and reset the gadget before you start the project. Once you've done that, the next thing you want to do is you go to the project menu and you set up any of this customer information. If you don't have any customer information, don't put it in. But you do need this if you're going to use ToolPass. Let's put it this way. If you're going to use ToolPass, you will need to have a pass set on your computer somewhere where it would save the export file. This export file saves all your settings, and you can re-import those settings in the future if you wanted to use them again. That way you don't have to reset the entire gadget. You just import the settings and go right to work with creating the project. So the next thing you, like I said, you want to do, you want to set a path somewhere on your computer. Like on mine, I've got it in downloads. I have gadget coding test files. I open that, I look for French curves, and I say okay to that, and I save that. The next thing I would want to do is set up the milling defaults. Your cut depth, and then the cut depth that's inside the parts and outside. And then the material thickness, you want to take and copy whatever your material thickness is here for your project. You want to make sure it's the same here. That way it's all recorded simultaneously and it's the same in each feature. In the future, I'm going to try to see if I can get this to pick up that material thickness from the project. That way you don't have to worry about changing it. It'll already be set. Now the cut depth, I've got it defaulted to the material thickness that I'm using at the present time. You may need to change that to when the material thickness changes, you change this also. And you want to go a little bit below. So we'll change that to 125.1 and then we'll save it. Now, if you use ToolPass, you need to fill in the tools here. If you want just the vectors for a particular group of French curves, you don't put the vectors, the tools in the interface here. You just say OK, and it will create just the vectors only. And also, if you want just vectors only, you don't have to fill in all this information up here. You can bypass all that information. And I've got some notes right here on setting up the gadget. I'm looking into before the gadget interface actually opens up. use that little box that comes up at the beginning, and it'll tell you these dimensions. The XY datum at the center position. The gadget is best used with that type of condition, and the material board size is typically 16 inches by 12 to start with, and then you can change that depending on the type of curves and everything that you. In fact, let's go ahead and just say that, and you notice it says no tool pathing, vectors on layer selected only. There we have a set of French curves, and it's just the vectors only with the layers. You got an inside profile, and then you've got your cutout of the actual detail parts. Now we'll do the gadget again with tooling involved. Let's see, create a new file, and we want to make it 16 inches by 12 inches. Material thickness 125, and you got center datum XY, and we go okay with that. Now we'll go get the gadget. Let's see, it's in my gadgets. Let's see, French maker. Boom, there we go. Now, I've used the gadget already, so the information should be still set. So I don't have to fill in this information. It's already ready to go. If you're going to use those same settings, you can do this. Now we'll go ahead and add the tooling. We'll use a 16th for the inside, and that way it gets right to the corners. And let's see, on this one, we'll go with a 1/8. And then we'll say okay to that. And of course, we got this message. That's because the export file is looking for some information, and I didn't do a gadget reset. This you will typically get if you don't do a gadget reset. See, I bypassed everything, and I'm looking into this to fix this. But for right now, the best thing to do every time you use the gadget, bring up the gadget reset it, and you won't get this because I'll show you exactly what happens. We'll go ahead and reset the gadget. Let's see, French maker, boom. Okay, about, and then we'll use the tooling, and you'll see we won't get that message. Project path down. No, not that one. Diagonal arrow downloads. This one. French curves. Save that. Milling. It's the same. We'll just make it a little bit deeper so it cuts through. Now we'll choose a French group. If you want to see these beforehand, you go right here, and it's got a picture of each one of the French curves, or the groups of the French curves. Let's go with group 3. I kind of like that. And I'm using a 1/16 to get into these corners. And of course, on this, I really don't need to. I could probably get by with a 1/8, but I'm going to go ahead and just leave it with a 16th. Go with a 16th on the inside, and on the outside, we use a 1/8. And if you hover your cursor over this inside and cutout, it will give you some typical information. Use bits designed for the material. versus plastic versus wood bits and aluminum bits and stuff like that. And you want a comparable size to cut out the parts. And of course, you look at your curves and get an idea of what the inside looks like. And if you got tight corners, you want to go with a small diameter, which is what I'm doing here. So now we'll say okay to this, and you notice we're going right straight to the tool pathing. It doesn't go to that error message for the export file. And we're working the inside for the first tool, and it's telling me we're going to be cutting to 125. Should be 125.1, but it only shows 3 decimal places on those messages, not 4. Okay, so there we have our tool pathing, we have our layers, and we have all the cutouts here. And I'll preview that for you so you can see what happens here. And we've got it on birch with the horizontal lines going across, or grain, I should say, horizontal grain. We'll preview that. It cuts the inside first, and then it cuts the outside profiles. We double click on the part, and it gets rid of the material. And there we have our 6 French curves in that group, which was group 3. So there you have it, the French curve gadget. And let me show you the export file while I'm thinking about it. And you'll see the information that was saved. Okay, it's in downloads. It's in Gadget coding on my computer, and it's on French curves. And this is the last one we just saved. And this is the typical information it gives you. In fact, it gives you everything within that gadget. That way we can import it to use it again. Or if you're having troubles or problem issues with the gadget, you can send me this file or send the technician this file, and he can import it and troubleshoot whatever problem issue that you're having. So it's beneficial in having this export file. The gadget typically works well. If you get the error message for the export file, just restart the gadget, do a gadget reset, and go with it. And you shouldn't have a problem. But if you do run into that export file error message for the time being, until I get the issue solved, uh, just make use of the gadget reset. Thank you for watching Shark Cut Up CNC.